Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would like to carry on with the wonderful viewer questions that you so very kindly submitted to this channel a few months back. And so that brings us to the next comment and question from JL. So hello JL, I hope this video finds you well. And you say, hope all is well, Daisuke. What is your favorite needle drop in a film? So thank you very much for this. So needle drop in cinema, in films. So my understanding of what this means is, this is referring to music or use of music, and to be specific, the use of a pre-existing music or song or recording in a film. In other words, a piece of music that was not created or recorded specifically or specially for the film itself, but rather the film was made, but prior to it being made, there existed some other recording or other piece of music. And so that music is used in the film. That's called needle drop in cinema, in film. So that's my understanding of what this means. And if that's the case, then there are countless, so many examples of uses of pre-existing music and recordings in any given work of cinema. There are so many to choose from, the use of, say, pre-existing songs or other pre-existing recordings and the like. And so much, I think, can be maybe cited as examples for responding to this really great question, JL. And so I don't want to take up too much of your very precious and valuable time. If I were, however, to try to respond to the question, what are some of my favorite needle drop moments in film, the uses of pre-existing music in cinema, maybe I can give a couple of examples. So the first example I'd like to bring up is it's in regards to a film that is made by a very unique and extraordinary filmmaker, and that is David Lynch. And the name of the film is Blue Velvet. Now, there are so many songs that are used in Blue Velvet. There are so many songs that are used by David Lynch's in David Lynch's films overall, and also his television work, etc. So many great uses, and perhaps so many to choose from, but I choose Blue Velvet here as the example that I wanted to bring, because in this film, as I say, there are so many pre-existing recordings of songs that are used to great effect. But if I had to choose one, I think it would have to be the way in which the film incorporates the song, the Roy Orbison song, which is called In Dreams. Now, when I first saw Blue Velvet, I think I was not at all prepared for what it was that I was seeing, and I saw it at a fairly young age. And indeed, I was shocked, I was confused, and there were many things I wasn't sure what was going on. It was just suddenly propelled me to this whole new world and universe of darkness and confusion. And I think that's part of one of the great hallmarks of David Lynch's cinema, at least for the most part anyway. And but in that plunge, there was that example of the use of In Dreams. It comes in a key sequence, or maybe in a series of sequences involving the character played by Dennis Hopper, who's named Frank. And one of the sequences also involves the character of Ben, but also a sequence that follows closely after involves Frank and the way he confronts the Jeffrey character, the Kyle MacLachlan character. And so, and it's a sequence, but the song is used to great effect in this overall series of sequences of the film. And as we know, there's a way in which the light is used and the idea of performance is used, and in dreams the lyrics are focused upon by the characters as they are listening to the song being played. And so there's a real powerful way in which the film uses and incorporates the song to great effect, to chilling effect. And it really is so almost emblematic of the way in which David Lynch's art operates, at least from a certain viewpoint, because David Lynch's art, I would suggest, is so it can withstand a whole myriad of interpretations, both in terms of the direct and also the absurd and the surreal. And we can imagine that it can go in many different directions. And that's true in terms of what he uses in terms of the bases of his art, such as song, such as the song In Dreams. On the one hand, one can see the use of In Dreams as a type of direct, sincere, almost homage to the work of Roy Orbison, used in a very sincere way. At the same time, one can see the use of In Dreams in the film Blue Velvet, as almost a type of usurping or perversion of what the underlying song was meant to do and meant to say and meant to suggest in its lyric. And it's really haunting and almost melancholy melody. And there's a sense of longing in terms of that, the lyric, the Roy Orbison lyric. But then when it's used in the film, it's used to great, almost nightmarish effect. And we see that the characters of Ben, and in particular Frank, they take it and they really believe in it to the point where it's almost a type of extreme justification for all the acts of violence and the acts of mayhem and murder, etc., that they seem to be engaged in terms of this type of criminal activity in this otherwise small town locale and setting. So it serves as a type of almost usurping or perversion of the underlying innocent principles of the song In Dreams, to put it one way. So, and it's also at the same time an homage. And so that, I think, is a real brilliant use. Even though it might be said to be a type of perversion of the underlying song, I don't think it ever makes fun of the song. It never disrespects the song. I mean, on the contrary, there is a real sense of respect and homage, but taking it and turning it into a very multidimensional work, and that it can therefore be interpreted in many ways, both in terms of the soft, delicate, melancholy nature of the melody and lyric, but also there is a real, the more one thinks about it, there is a real sense of maybe the quietly sinister that is lurking beneath the surface of a seemingly innocent song like In Dreams. And I think that is the real principle upon which the success of Blue Velvet operates, or one of the principles upon which the success of Blue Velvet operates, the idea of the pristine surface that seems to hide the darkness underneath, and the wonderful clean-cut lawns of the yards of the houses that are hiding or that reveal, but when one looks close, the insects and the violence and the decay and destruction. And so in many ways, the use of In Dreams seems to revolve around this or identify this. And take the example from the song itself. It begins with this very poetic but also quite mysterious phrase, right, that is also echoed by the character Frank in the film Blue Velvet, right? A candy-colored clown they call a Sandman tiptoes through my room every night just to sprinkle stardust and to whisper, go to sleep, everything is all right. And then I close my eyes, right? And so this idea of the image of a candy-colored clown they call a Sandman, the image of the Sandman and sleep and dreams is something that is, I think, very much fundamental. But then to associate it with this image of the clown, a candy-colored clown they call Sandman, there is something of the innocent and sweet. There is also something of the slightly creepy and almost chilling. I mean, the image of a clown can be very warm and inviting and very friendly. It could also be very creepy and scary. I mean, we'll take an example in David Lynch's filmography later down the line, after Blue Velvet. There's a really interesting use of clown imagery in a film like, say, Inland Empire that also speaks to the haunting, almost frightening, nightmarish quality of the image of a clown, and to have it be the opening phrase or one of the opening phrases of the song In Dreams, I think it's very telling. It's almost like Roy Orbison was singing about the David Lynch landscape at the time of making and singing In Dreams. And so in many ways, I mentioned that there's a sort of an innocence to the lyric, as well as a type of way in which it seems to be perverted in this still respectful way in the film Blue Velvet. But maybe it also reveals the fact that there is something inherently complex about In Dreams, the song, thus making it in many ways the perfect song to use in a David Lynch film, in the film Blue Velvet. And so I would use that, my friend JL, as one way to address this great question. So the use of the song In Dreams in Blue Velvet. And I should say too that maybe if I could answer the question, the great question, with another example. One of my all-time favorite films, and one of the films that gave me a lot of scares and a lot of joy and a lot of thrills and entertainment as a kid when I first saw it, and then ever since, every time I visited and revisit the film, is the George Romero work, Dawn of the Dead. And one of the really charming things about that film, the theatrical release version or the director's cut version, etc., is the use of music. And as you know, there is a type of mixture between music that was composed by Goblin, in some versions of the film anyways, music that was composed by Goblin, and also music that is from a type of maybe like audio library, pre-recordings that were then employed on certain scenes of the film. Now, one of the most iconic of these particular pre-recorded pieces of music is a song which is described in terms of its title. It's called The Gonk, and The Gonk is Herbert Chappell, is credited as being the author of this work, The Gonk, and it's this very light and almost very catchy march sort of tune. And it has a type of comic or absurd beat to it that adds to its charm and to its appeal, and becomes a type of theme song, if you will, for this absurd zombie invasion involving the shopping mall. And it just adds to the sense of the absurdness of this take on consumer capitalist culture gone awry in many ways, and just the kind of surreal absurdist nature to it, and it makes one laugh in a certain point of view. So The Gonk, this is one of the great songs, one of the great uses of pre-recorded music ever, in my view. And I can remember two things as well after I first saw Dawn of the Dead, and I watched on VHS when I was a kid and things, so before DVD and Blu-ray and 4K, etc. So when I was a kid growing up, I used to live in the United Kingdom, and there was a show on TV in the United Kingdom, and it was called Spitting Image. And it was a show that had these puppets, this puppet work. It was really brilliant puppet work that was in the forms of these real-life persons. So they are caricatures of real people. And I remember it's this comedy sketch type of routine, Spitting Image. And whenever it would come on, I would be so excited on TV. It'd be, oh, it's Spitting Image. It was so funny. A lot of the jokes went over my head as a kid growing up in the late 80s, early 90s in the UK. And still, it was just this opportunity to see this really interesting looking, funny show, Spitting Image. Now, one episode, and I don't remember the exact situation, but one episode, I think it was involving, I might be wrong, but somehow or another, I seem to recall, maybe it was involving a sketch involving the puppet Margaret Thatcher, I think. I forget exactly, but in any event, one of the sketches was being shown, and all of a sudden, wouldn't you know it, the song that was playing over this particular sketch, it was a brief sketch in one of the episodes of Spitting Image, was this song from Dawn of the Dead, this song from Dawn, which is a song I loved, and I saw this on Spitting Image, and I thought to myself, wow, this is the same song from Dawn of the Dead. That's so unbelievable. That's great. And again, this was in the late 80s, early 90s, and that back in the day, I had no idea what this song was and where it came from, except, again, this deep association with Dawn of the Dead. But here it was being played again in this other setting of the comedy puppet sketch show Spitting Image. And then so that was a big thrill. But then after that, I didn't know anything about the song until many, many years later. And I think I was in New York City at the time, and I was just walking. It was kind of a smallish sized music store, CD store, that was maybe near, I want to say near Union Square somewhere in New York, although I forget exactly the location. But I was just there, just randomly browsing. And then lo and behold, in one of the rows that was for movie soundtracks, because I was and am a big movie soundtracks fan, there was this CD that had this yellow colored cover to it. Oh, this is interesting. It really caught the eye. It had this bright tone to it. And I looked and it said Dawn of the Dead. I said, what? Oh, Dawn of the Dead, what's this? Because I knew of the previous, say, CD recording releases of the Goblin soundtrack pieces to Dawn of the Dead. And those were, of course, very fun and iconic to listen to. And I had some of those CDs already, but this is something that I'd never seen before up to this point. And it was, I looked carefully, and it was it unreleased music, unreleased soundtrack music from the George A. Romero film Dawn of the Dead. And it had this artistic rendering of a zombie with like bulging eyeballs or something. And it was this great yellow cover with black lettering. And I thought, unreleased music, could this possibly be some of those music cues that were these pre-recorded songs from the film Dawn of the Dead, or that were used in some of the released versions of Dawn of the Dead? Could it be? So I didn't know, but I bought it immediately. I was so curious, and then I went home or to my apartment, and I put it on the CD player, and I listened to it, and my goodness, it was magnificent. It was magnificent. And indeed, the first number was the gonk, and my life, I felt so happy. I was able to have this piece of music here, and this was before, I think this was before YouTube and before the real depth of the online presence of music, and you can listen to music now, but back in the day, you still had CDs, and so to have the CD release and to hear the gonk and to be able to identify what the song was and the title, and you can listen to it, and oh, it's over, but you can listen to the full song. Wow. This blew my mind so much. I was so happy. I think I was on cloud 9 for a month or so. I was just so happy. I was so happy. At long last, I was able to get this and play it. And so, and then not to mention the fact that the other selections were brilliant. So brilliant to have these selections. I love the bit where it's the montage and the group are getting all the goodies from the stores and the supermarket, and they're enjoying the life in the mall, and there's that montage and a wonderful eclectic mix of various musical forms. That's a great thing. So just all in all, a wonderful, delightful surprise again. One afternoon in New York, a random CD shop browsing led to this beautiful discovery, and I was truly happy, so happy to have been able to discover the gonk. And so I think that for me is another great one. Just it reminds me of a film that I love so much. The song itself makes me so happy, and it's just so weird and lively and absurd, and just it's perfect, absolutely perfect. the gong. Yes. So anyway, JL, thank you so much for this. I'm very sorry for the lengthy response. I hope you can forgive me. I'm very, very sorry. But thank you very much for that. And how would you answer the question? I would very much love to hear what it is you might have to say in response, or anyone else might have to say in response to your great question about needle drops in cinema. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers. Only in dreams.